to another episode of Nature Notes. Today we're going to be talking about an animal that comes out a little bit more in the springtime, and that is our little brown bat. This is our only flying mammal that we have with bats, and this one is native to Wisconsin. This one does get a little bit confused with another bat, so this one is our little brown bat. There's another bat called the Indiana bat that looks very similar to it. The only way you can tell them apart is right down by the foot. There's a little indent on the Indiana bat. So this is a little brown bat because it does not have that indent. The little brown bat is state threatened within a few different states. The Indiana bat is federally endangered. So they do have a little bit difference of what they need for them. When it comes to bats, a lot of people do think of bats as a negative way, but the bats are only here to help us. A lot of people think, oh, their bats are going to suck blood. We actually only have 2 species of vampire bats, and they usually go for cows. So they're never going to come after people. They don't like our blood, they like the blood of cows. So we are actually pretty safe that way. But our little brown bat is going to be found in a lot of different habitats. It'll be out in the woods, it'll be under rocks, but the number one thing it'll be is in caves. And up here in Wisconsin, this is it. Actually, it's summering homes, and so it flies south for its winter where it does hibernate. This is its hibernacula. And it does act like the other animals that hibernate, and so they stock up on food before they go and sleep. They will suspend hunting and eating while they are in their hibernaculum, and so they are kind of just shutting off all that weight. But unfortunately, when they're in their hibernaculum is where issues can arise. On our little brown bat here, this is what is called as white nose syndrome. This is a fungus or a fungi that grows on its nose, and what happens is it kind of tickles its nose and it makes it a little bit harder for the animal to breathe. And so usually during its hibernation, the little brown bat will wake up every 60 to 80 days, kind of just wake up, stretch a little bit, and then fall back asleep. But when it has the white nose syndrome, it'll actually wake up about every 10 to 14 days. And so it's using a lot of energy to wake up, more than it usually would, and so it's shutting off all that weight and they starve. Unfortunately, they cannot go out where they're wintering, even though they do winter southern regions. They also do winter here in Wisconsin. It's too cold for them. They are a mammal, so they do have warm blood, but obviously we are much bigger than the little brown bat, and so they don't have the heat that is required to go outside and hunt. So unfortunately, white nose is an issue. There is a lot of research being done to find the cure, and they actually do have a cure. The first ever testing that was positive was on bananas, and so they put the fungus on the banana and they used the cure and it got rid of the fungus on it. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to eradicate this disease because they have to go from cave to cave and bat to bat. So being that one person that would have to go and give the cure to every bat would be a very tedious job. And the bat can be cured, it would leave, but the soil and everything in that cave is still infected with the white nose syndrome. So if that bat left and then came back again, it would just re-get white nose syndrome. The way this is also transported besides just the bat is actually through spelunkers and people who go into caves with their gear. It started out in the Vermont area and has kind of spread over into the Midwest, and it now actually has a region in Washington that it has been introduced in. How this happened is there was people going into the cave, they didn't clean any of their gear, they went over to Washington, and unfortunately they got white nose syndrome over there. So the Washington Fish and Wildlife Service is spending a lot of time and effort to make sure that it does not spread any farther. There is, at some cave entrances, equipment for them to spray down their gear with for chemicals not to be spread. There was unfortunately one story where they were going in the cave in the wintertime, they sprayed off when they left, and all the chemicals froze onto their gear, and so when they got into the next cave, all the chemicals thawed and they inhaled all of that chemical, so it did not end well for the cavers. So that is one way that bats are, unfortunately this is the #1 killer of the bats, but a lot of people are putting effort towards saving them. But the bats are very helpful. They do eat basically our state bird of Wisconsin here. This is the mosquito. We have thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of them all around us, but the bat is very helpful. It can actually eat 1,200 mosquitoes an hour. So how they do this is they use something called echolocation, the world's most powerful pair of glasses. And how this works is they send out a signal and it bounces off different things, and then the sonar comes back to them, and they actually will pick up everything. Bats are not blind. A lot of people think that they are, but they do have sight. Obviously, it's not as good as ours. They don't see in color like we do. But they pick up signals, and they can actually tell the difference between a building and obviously a little mosquito. So they go after little insects, eat that, but they'll also eat multiple different things. such as berries and fleshy items. And so as they're flying around, they are sending out that signal, but there is one thing that it's a little harder for them to pick up that signal, and that is called, those are wind turbines. And so how this works is the wind turbines are going, and so it's sending out air from it, and so the echolocation is just bouncing off air, and so it thinks that it's fine to fly. It gets too close, and when those wind turbines are spinning, bats do not actually die from the collision. That is more of a bird thing. But actually, if a bat gets too close, it is so small that it implodes the lungs. So what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has done is they've put millions of dollars of research into it so that the windmills are not in migratory routes of either bats or birds, and they actually have what is called kill speeds. And so if the wind is not going fast enough, the wind turbine just won't move, or it'll just go a little, so the bats can still pick up what they can on their echolocation. So like I talked about, these are the only mammals to fly. This is our little brown bat flying around, little adorable little guy. It doesn't look like they should be able to fly though. They are solid bones because they are mammal and they are a fattier animal. So how this works is they have that nice wingspan. It's a little harder to tell on our little brown bat. The wingspan of a little brown bat is 10 inches. So the body would only be about this big, so it definitely has a much wider wingspan. Our flying fox bat is actually our largest bat that we have, and that wingspan is 3 feet. So it's definitely much larger. It needs a bigger wingspan to help it stay up. And these bats can actually fly, or little brown bat can actually fly at speeds of 60 miles an hour. So they do a very good speed. For them to fly though, they do actually have to drop down from an area. So if you see a bat on the ground, make sure you are wearing gloves when you pick them up, but you can pick them up and put them up into a tree or something that is higher up in the air because they need to hang and then they fly off that way. So moving forward, please remember that bats aren't here to hurt us. They're not going to suck our blood, but they're only here to help get rid of our mosquitoes. Thank you.